We all know the technical marvel that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet really are. For almost 2.5 years since the games were released, they've been unbearably playable on the Nintendo Switch. The janky character models, the stuttering towns, and the Pokemon getting sent flying midair. But what if I told you that Game Freak recently released a patch for Scarlet and Violet that significantly enhances the game? And let's be honest, there's always a catch with this kind of stuff. You'll need to own a Nintendo Switch too. But hey, at least the patch is free. I'm looking at you, Zelda. In this video, we'll be going through the new patch and see if Scarlet and Violet are actually fixed. One of the big talking points when the game released back in 2022 was, of course, the frame rates. In the original Nintendo Switch, Scarlet and Violet barely scraped by with 20 and 25 FPS in most cases. It got so bad that some players even noticed that 10% of their playing time was spent on lag.
I've played for 16.5 hours. I've lost an hour and a half to lag.
Can you believe that this game allowed refunds when it came out? But now, on the Nintendo Switch 2, it's a night and day difference. I'm actually playing this game at a locked 60 FPS with no drops at all. I didn't even think this game could ever run smooth. Like, if you don't see the difference on this side by side, you actually have the wrong resolution in the video. Like, you actually go check. The Switch 2 is just smooth as butter. This is the classroom on the Nintendo Switch 1. Like, you can see the students, they are moving in stop motion, dude. This is like 10 FPS or something. Oh, but on Switch 2, baby! They run at 60 FPS. They actually fixed this, man. But hold up. This is the very famous windmill from this game, right? Like, look at it, just running like a slideshow. But now, we have peaked in humankind developments. There is no going back from here. Another very big outlier in Scarlet and Violet on the Switch 1 was how bad the resolution looked. Mind you, on Switch 1, this game runs at 1080p docked and 720p handheld. But even with those resolutions, it had awful downscaling and image quality, which made everything look pixelated and blurry at the same time. But now, on the Switch 2, this game actually runs up to 4K 60 docked. You're telling me this is how the game actually looks at full resolution? In my opinion, on Switch 1, while exploring the overworld, everything just felt way too pixelated, way too blurry. I didn't enjoy it at all, actually. But with this resolution increase together with the new frame rate, this actually feels very nice to move around. It also makes cutscenes look way better compared to the Switch 1 version, especially when there are no frame drops during them. Overall, one of the big changes in this patch. Playing this makes me wonder, where are my freaking standards, man? But you know what else had to be improved? The LOD, or level of detail. This basically controls how much detail is shown depending on the draw distance. On the Switch 1 version of the game, the LOD was really low due to the hardware not being powerful enough to render things from far away. This is why also you'd see some Pokemon pop right in front of you, or some NPCs. And also why this beautiful view of Mesagoza looked like that. But now with the resolution increase, you can definitely see way more detail from far away. Like, this actually looks okay now. But even with that improvement, I'm disappointed to say that the textures still don't look great. They're clearer, but not better. Higher resolution just exposes how low quality some of these textures actually are. I also noticed that the popping for Pokemon and NPCs are a little better, but it's still not perfect. Sometimes you can see them from much farther away, sometimes not. Still, it's way less jarring than before, which is already an improvement, so I'll give them that. On the Nintendo Switch 1, we had a limit of 15 Pokemon on the screen. It was an alright amount, but even with those 15 Pokemon, the game lagged pretty badly. Trying to go for an outbreak on Castoria Lake, for example, just caused a massive lag fest that made the game drop to like 15 FPS. It was pretty bad. But now, on the Nintendo Switch 2, this number is increased by 30. I cannot even fathom how this guy got this many Pokemon in one screen, and the game doesn't even lag once. This makes the map feel way more full and alive than it did on the Switch 1 version. There's actual wildlife around, and it's not Tula chunks. The Nintendo Switch was notorious for long loading times, but for Scarlet and Violet specifically, fast traveling felt like a punishment. You spend way more time staring at a black screen than actually playing. Like in this case over here, it's still loading. Yep. Oh, there you go. I did a few comparisons by fast traveling to the same areas on both consoles. And of course, the Nintendo Switch 2 is way faster. Loading into a new area is almost instant now, taking up to 2 to 3 seconds versus the Switch 1. 13? Oh my god. Another big one is that battle transitions improve a ton. On Switch 1, battle transitions could take up to 2 to 4 seconds to get into a battle. But here, they're pretty much instant. This will make the game way more enjoyable, especially when you're grinding and doing shiny hunts. It just feels snappy, what can I say? Now, what other stuff improved? Well, the UI feels way snappier, especially in battles and when using boxes. The Pokemon actually load pretty much instantly and there's no waiting time. And I think the audio sounds better, but it might be placebo. Now, there might be changes I don't even know about, so if you guys know, you can tell me down here in the comments, because I also want to check them out. Now, after all these changes, is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet what it should have been from the start? And I have to say yes. To me, these were always good games. I liked them a lot, even with their performance issues. But now that most of them were actually fixed, I think people can actually see this game in a new light. However, the big problem is this. You need to buy a whole new console to enjoy these improvements. Players shouldn't have to spend hundreds of dollars just to get the version of the game that runs well. All these changes, everything that happened in this patch, should have come in the first game. In the Nintendo Switch 1, this is how it should have been from the start. And now that the games are mostly fixed, there is no excuse. To me, this clearly shows that Game Freak is capable of delivering a polished and enjoyable game. And considering that Legend CA will build off this engine and will likely be Game Freak's last Switch 1 game, I have high hopes that Game Freak will not be held back anymore, and we might actually have a Pokemon game that looks and runs well by Gen 10. Thanks for watching.